So we can kind of talk through a little bit of the agenda for today. We have what we're doing, which is saying hello, introduce ourselves, all that good stuff, and then we'll jump into some pitch stuff. We have, I'm gonna make sure to, there's a lot of overlapping interest between here and Milan, so I'm gonna try and get the majority of, I think, the content-focused stuff out. We'll jump into examples at the end, so we'll open up with a little bit of pitch basics. Then we're going to go into what you should include in a pitch in a really kind of overarching way that should be able to apply to no matter what the project is, scripted, unscripted, words, videos, all that good stuff, and then something. Then you feel like I get to something over here. So, it's me. I am Chelsea Marotta. I am class of 2012. I was an English major. I was just saying that I was an English major and education school attendant until very late in my college career when I was like, oh, it's okay if I'm not a teacher. I can be in entertainment because that's what I wanted to do. So late to the game, but slid in right in time, working in the industry in some capacity since graduation. I started in and have been working in unscripted development, so reality TV, but also not just throwing drinks in each other's face, but true crime, documentary, history, all of that really good stuff. We have come up with really excellent teammates, everything from food competition shows to HGTV shows to you name it. I've done a weird Zoom with somebody stranger to try and sell a project. But I very fortunately have landed at a place called Religion of Sports. We are a sports-based production company founded by Tom Brady, Michael Strahan, and Malcolm Chopra. And we do all sorts of sports storytelling, which is really against type for me because it's exciting. My role is creative producer, so I work on visual development for all of the projects that we work on. We have a scripted department, we have had a few audio projects come through. So I've really gotten the chance to branch out and see a lot of how different people pitch different projects. There are a bunch of rules, but very few rules, which is exciting, and hopefully what I can help clarify today. So first things first, our overview. The process at this point, if you're here, you have an idea, you develop that idea, and now you're ready to share that idea with people and help make it happen. Well, it's very exciting to hear people comment, even though I can't see. So who is pitching what, when, and where? Everyone is pitching all the time. Our goal is to help each other. We're basically spending all of our time and effort trying to get people to work on our projects, or watch our projects, or make our projects, or collaborate with us in some capacity. If the way the positions that I worked in have been at production companies where we are pitching our ideas to networks, so they will help fund it, and then we take our margin of the budget. That's how we make our money. We can get into the business of it later if you'd like. There are other ways that we as a production company pitch creative. So if we have a director that we really like to work with, we can share materials with them to convince them to come on board and spend their time with us developing it and producing and making it. Something unique about where I am now is that we spend a lot of time and effort pitching in a meaningful way talent. So if we have a big athlete or musician or somebody that we want to work with and we want to ask to basically come into their lives with cameras, they need to be convinced why, or we want to take a portion of their time when they have 10 days off a year. It's sharing the idea and sharing the project in a way that makes them excited and want to join us. If you are on the other side of the process and you are a director or a writer, you may be pitching production or project on. You may be pitching directly to a network, and they will help with that. Or you could be in a bidding situation where a production company is asking a few different creatives to develop their take on an idea, and then you pitch them. So really, there are a million different ways you could be pitching and who you could be pitching to. There's a lot of combinations. Really, take any one of these two across the board. Everyone's talking to everybody. So we're going to try and be broad, and the definition we're using is the opportunity to share your vision with the people that you want to collaborate with. And there are a few different materials you can bring to those presentations. You can have a walkthrough presentation where you are doing kind of similar to this. You have materials in a room that you are supplemental to a in-person pitch that you're doing. This is usually, you get the advantage of bringing your personality to the table and bringing like the in-person relationship, or since COVID in Zoom relationship. Like we were just talking about, Lana and I were just talking about a pitch that we think is the Daniels did, where they edited like one of them getting their head cut off in like their room and like by like a ceiling fan, and like that was like their pitch surprise on Zoom. So there were like interesting ways you can really bring the salesmanship up with a pitch presentation. But then there are also more kind of content heavy, word heavy materials in pitch decks. So that's like a treatment that might get more in depth on your approach for an idea and act as leave behind materials or supplemental materials. And then there are video components like sizzles, which are just a slice of your idea, and that will act as a proof of concept. Sometimes it is. I have a great example of a music video where they created a proof of concept for the editing, like the visual effects that they wanted to do for the video, and so they did a short of it and pitched it. And so those are a few different ways. You may use all three, you may use one, depending on who you're pitching, what you feel like, what opportunity you have, if you are or can't get in the room with somebody, which works best for your project. So we're really going to focus on, we could spend 8 years talking about sizzles. So we're not going to get so much into breaking down sizzles, but I think that my hope is that what we're going to answer here is what content can go into a pitch presentation or a pitch deck that makes your project stand out and have your collaborators who know what you have in mind in your vision. So sorry that there isn't a best approach. I really wish there was. I think there's something exciting about the fact that you really get to customize it for yourself. So let's jump into content. I am breaking this down into 3 very mysterious categories. The first one is the 3 essentials and the secret 4. Then there's cut to the feeling. And then a third thing I created, is when you're the expert, you can make something up. It's the Goldilocks conundrum. So we'll jump into each of them, starting with the 3 essentials and the secret 4. These are the 3 questions you really got to be answering with your pitch. What is your story? Why should your story be told, and how will you tell the story? I think the easiest is, what's the story? First and next. You know your characters, you know your world, what period of time are we following them for? This is the nuts and bolts of your narrative. I hope that whatever the project is, this is the most obvious thing for you, and you can answer all of the questions here. The next 2 get a little bit more challenging, I think, and are really the heart of where your pitch can set itself apart. So the why should the story be told is partially why and partially why now. So maybe it's in the world of documentaries, a lot of the time there's historical context, whether it's an anniversary of something coming up, it's something that hasn't been investigated. It's the right time culturally to have a conversation. And I think that there's also a big opportunity right now to tell stories that haven't been told, or share perspectives that haven't been told. So I think that why is a really, it's a really central thing you should be focusing on in your pitch. The 2 examples that I have in mind, one of them is Malice in the Palace. I don't know if you've seen the next Netflix Untold. It's about this fight that happened at a Pacers game. I have my teams right. This is where I work in sports. And it was really widely covered at the time, and everyone's really familiar with the players and everyone's really familiar with the incident. They used the opportunity to tell a story everyone knew from a perspective no one had heard. And it agreed with like the distance that we've covered, even though it's only been like 10, 15 years since the incident happened, but our cultural conversation has shifted so dramatically that revisiting the story was really powerful because everyone has one narrative in mind and they were able to use the distance we've traveled, and like today that story is being told in a different way and listened to in a different way. And so I think there was something really powerful about revisiting a story that people already knew. Because I think that that's an argument like, oh, well, that story's been told. But there's a reason it needs to be told again. And then for scripted, I was listening to Quinta Brunson talk about Abbott Elementary, and I believe that if I'm remembering this correctly, she was saying that part of the development of pitching Abbott Elementary was considering the fact that a lot of comedies were very reactionary to current events, and it felt like it was like call and response with what was happening in the real world. And she's like, we don't have as many comedies anymore that like tell stories in its own ecosystem, that it lives in our world, but like really you're living in their world. And that was part of why her show was different and what set it apart. And I think that that's a really nice why. So those are some examples of why, but it should be answering why and why now. Then how will you tell the story? I think this is part technical, part creative voice. So on the technical side, how long is it? For a 10-part series? Are we in for an hour-long documentary? Is this a 15-minute short? Really basic. Like it's part of it, but it's the technical side of it. But the voice and creative vision side, I think that's where we get to have fun. Do you have a unique storytelling approach? If you're doing a documentary, like, are you going to twist the traditional documentary take, and instead of one-on-one interviews, you're going to have all of your interviews be part of a roundtable discussion? Like, how are you going to tell a story that's going to be different than other people or unique? Are you going to how are you going to make half of your movie rotoscope animation? How are you going to fold that in? What are the references you're going to use for that? And what visually will it look like? If you can answer these three questions, I think that you got to go back to development. I spent a long time in development, and putting pitch materials together sometimes takes a long time because you're spending a lot of time poking holes in your own idea. When you sit down and you go to write it and you're like, I actually don't know, or like, which is the best way, or like, it's a lot of brainstorming. So I don't think that there's any shame in being like, I'm ready to pitch, and then being like, wait a second, I gotta figure one thing out. So it's, I think being willing to make sure that your idea is prepared to pitch is part of it. And asking these questions, my hope is that you'll be able to really make sure your pitch has its own armor, that you've answered all the questions for. So when you can answer them, you got these three, and then our silent fourth question. Why is it to do? What makes you uniquely qualified to tell this story? Is it access that nobody else has? So I think that that's maybe the documentary world. I want to tell a story about X, and you need to buy it from me because I have the talent, I have access to the organization, I am the one who has spent. We had somebody come to us and we were like, hey, I've spent 10 years following this NBA player that just entered the league. I have 10 years of footage. And we're like, oh, fantastic. It needs to be you because you have this archive of stuff that makes it undeniable that you are the one to help tell this story. I think that there is sometimes that's like access and talent that you're bringing to the table are one thing, but also, is it a story that hasn't been told? Is it a story that's timely? Why does it need to be you? There's an authenticity question there, that your voice and your vision can be its own selling point. So making sure that this is kind of the undercurrent of your pitch, that you are the only one who can tell this story and that you are bringing something unique with it is important and part of learning how to sell your voice, which I think is like very important in our creative industry. Our next point, and I think that this kind of ties to developing your voice and your vision, is cutting to the feeling. It's really selling tone. Is it funny? Make it funny. Is it dramatic? Sell the drama. Is it scary? Make my skin crawl. There's no need to be clinical or academic in a sales pitch. I don't know about everyone here at William and Mary, but I do have a tendency to be academic. I have gotten the note, this is too academic, make it more fun, or like make it more salesy a lot. And I think that releasing yourself from I will say at the same time, you don't have to release yourself from professionalism, but loosen up. There's like, I think a lot of personality can drive a sale, and making sure that you're selling the tone of your project over selling you as like the business end of it is important. So don't be afraid to entertain. My life hack here for selling tone and selling feeling is use comps. This project is X means Y, it's this, it's that. It's going to be a lot easier to say it's chocolate for fashion designers instead of saying like, okay, so it's an idea, it's a competition where like everyone's getting off cuts of fabric and like if we have, it'll be 4 people and then you narrow it down to a winner. From chocolate for fashion designers, you already knew the show, you knew how it worked, you knew exactly, like I answered how long it was, how many people are involved, what the format was, like you knew exactly I gave you the shortcut to understand the details, and then we can get into the catch. And I think that it's especially useful with cinematic style. So people know certain, if I tell you something is like, I'm gonna talk about dynamics a lot. If I tell you something is invoking everything everywhere all at once, I am taking you a million miles a second. So comps are super useful to sell the tone of your project. Use your words, but especially visual medium. Sorry guys, we really got into our image research. I feel like doing image research, and I know that fully my job, I've made it caring about how things look, but having a way to sell what you're going to do visually is really important. We'll see it in the examples. I don't think that you need to win any design awards, but I think that being able to point to stuff that is a look and feel of what you're going for is important and essential. So there is one last hurdle here, which I am calling again the formerly teased Goldilocks conundrum, which is your pitch needs to be concise, but don't miss any information. You really need to be detailed, but like don't make it so long that people are going to get bored halfway through. You need to be like developed and like really know what you want, but like if there are notes, you need to be able to change it. This is the point of contradiction that I think comes up in a lot of pitches where like you might sit here and be like, I know what it is, and you'll see a pitch that's like 100 pages, and you're like, what? Like, it's for the project. Some pages need a 20-page deck, other pitches can sell with 3 pages and the right attachment. So I think that I do think I'm not gonna cut in on myself and say there are obvious no's. Do not send unfinished work. Somebody was like, hi, I'm pitching a documentary and here's a 3-hour rough cut. I'm like, no, I'm good, man. Like that is like I think that there's that. I think that like a first shot is like you're like sending like, here's my full script. Like that is not helpful. I think that if you're answering the other questions that we covered first, that's not going to be your instinct. Because you're not selling necessarily the material, but you're pitching on it. So just want to hit those no's that I think are more about being respectful of time. But I think the key here for how to determine what is right for your project is knowing your audience and selling to your audience. So who are you pitching, why, and how are you going to connect best with that person? There are 2 stories here that I have from recent pitches that I think are really useful. We were pitching an author on collaborating and getting the rights to their book. The pitch document for that was a 3-page letter. It was really nicely laid out, so it like kind of like nodded like we're visual coding. We care, but the actual document was literally just a letter that truly the person who wrote it for they were like, it's my favorite author, they're really gonna send it. So it was about like connecting with them and knowing how to connect with them. 3-page letter though, that was it. On the other side, it was an author, I think that bringing a big visual presentation was not going to like spiritually sit with Like this was the correct form and format to bring to this individual for what we needed, which was to get them on board to give us the rights. On the other side of it, we were working with a musician and trying to, we had early discussions about like, hey, I think that I want you guys to follow, like they had seen work that we had done and been like, what would, like, hey, like if we were to work together, I have some stuff coming up, what would it look like if we followed me and my band, let's talk about it. And so part of talking about it was putting together a presentation for them that really sold our vision for the project and our approach. And we had somebody take a first pass at the deck, and it was like all pictures of the musician. And the producer freaked out and was like, this is never gonna work. Like he knows what he looks like. Like he doesn't need to see pictures of himself. Like every page is a picture of he was there. Like it's so reworking that document to sell the feeling that like we want to cover this point in your career where it's really stressful and like we're gonna evoke like so flats. It's gonna be like really moody in these ways. And this is like this is how we're going to, this is the feeling we're gonna evoke rather than like, remember when you were in this concert? Like I think that connecting with your audience and knowing how to move them and like get them on board with your stuff is important. And I think that when that project, which is in production, and in production like on a dime, so we'll need to sell to a buyer. When it sells to a buyer, it will include more pictures because the buyer, it works for the buyer to see more of the musician. Not every detail can go into pitch materials, and it doesn't need to. You need to include enough for somebody to be home. So you can always continue the conversation if you have someone's interest, but it's a little bit harder to continue to the conversation if the interest is waning. So kind of queue it up so somebody is interested in asking follow-up questions and be ready to answer those questions. So if they are buying in, they're going to want to know more and be prepared to answer for more. I think that that's part of being strategic about what you include. You have the rest of the answers when they're ready to ask them. Yeah, all the work you do in the development phase will pay off in all the questions. That's the heart and soul there. And really the last thing on content is selling the world that you want to build. I think that this is your time to build that vision, both visually and emotionally. I think that there's a lot of, this is your window into for other people. You know what it looks like in your head, give other people that your characters, your setting, your point of view as a creative is really essential, and this is your opportunity to put it to paper and put a voice to it. It's a love letter to your project, it's your best foot forward, and that's gonna hopefully carry it where it wants to go and where you want it to go. That is it for our content portion, so we are going to get into examples. I have a few unscripted examples that I'm going to go into, and I think unscripted, we're going to focus on some pitch materials decks. We might be able to potentially watch some sizzles. I have a few, but I want to make sure that we can have conversations too. This first one is for a show that did sell. We're going to also do shows that didn't sell and did sell, because honestly, most stuff doesn't sell if you're in development. You can, I don't want that to be disheartening. I think that in the development process, when your whole job is come up with ideas, like you're pitching constantly, if you have a film that you want to make, if you have a documentary that you want to make that you are bringing, you are like taking there, like no question, I'm not looking for a collaborator. I'm looking for collaborators, not a buyer yet. That I think is a different thing, but so some stuff is sold, some stuff is unsold because it comes from the world of like development. This first one is called, it's for a project called The Cloud of King, and it did sell. It is a true crime project investigating the ties between John Wayne Gacy and Dean Corll, both horrible men. But what the why on this project was about new evidence had emerged about their potential connection. And so these are individuals who had found that information and were investigating the information. So we're introducing the context of the characters, and I think that you can start to see some of the vibe, which is its own thing. But this was how the pitch deck looked. I think this pitch deck was around like 15 to 20 pages, as we were introducing a lot of characters. It went with a sizzle reel, so that was about 2 to 3 minutes that covered the arc of the story. And this included historical context, characters, and what was our intention for the project, the documentary project. So this did sell and was made, and this is what the pitch materials for it looks like. This is did not sell, but I feel like it's a really good example of something that like sells vibe, tone, this like if you can or can't read it, so many dishes from all over the world have been baked into our national character. But what do we know about where they came from, or why they came to be so beloved? It's time to hear the intriguing origin story and the rich history of our favorite foods from the food itself. This is Grub Tales. And I think that this does a really good job of pitching the idea in a way where like, this is the deck. I can't take credit for this. This is a coworker created this deck, and really like the whole thing kind of has this vibe, but this one page, like, you know what's happening here. Like, it's, I think, like cheeky, it's got like this historical bent to it. And I think that tone is sold effectively here. I think that like the why is like, no one's done this is fun. Like the how, like it kind of, that the deck kind of breaks down like what the idea for how food would narrate the show. And what kind of got into how the show would work. It was about like you would get historical stuff, but then also like things today, like places today that were making that iconic food that felt like the food would condone and like we give its approval of. So it got into format a little bit more throughout the pitch, but I do think that this really effectively settles the tone. It is a fun kind of like pitch page from the unscripted world. Didn't sell them, so now you guys have a little piece of history. So this is, we're going to move on to a much darker tone project. This is, these are 2 pages, and I'm going to have a few more slides and pages from a project called Boston Strangler that actually the documentary, or this trailer just dropped for the documentary. It's not a documentary at all. It is a scripted film on Hulu. And I worked with one of the producers who helped to develop this project when he was at Ridley Scott's company, and I was poking around to see if anyone would lend me a pitch deck. And he said, well, actually, the trailer just dropped, and you can see where it started. And so this was the actual presentation. This was a pitch presentation. So these were 2, I pulled the pages more by what they were selling than chronological, and I can try and open up the chronological document later if you want to look at it. But they were introducing the characters and walking through the story while letting the visuals sell the tone, the era of the world. So this is, it is 2 Girl Reporters Analysts, a Strangler. The story is about the 2 women at the newspaper that was covering the Boston Strangler stories and how they pushed to name it as a serial killer and really highlight the dangers of it and the misconduct by the police. So we can see, I think, like women blowing a whistle is kind of like a timely reason why this story is relevant today. And then they were introducing the characters using photos. It's really nice when you get great photos like this. I don't know what type of great photo research they would, I don't know if it was one photo researcher or if they were able to find these and they're readily available. I haven't done the research myself, but they did a really good job showing who the people were that actually existed that were going to populate this film series world. Then they also peppered the whole deck with comps. So these are visual comps on what the tone of the story is going to be, what the world is going to look like, and what visually they're going to do with the project. I believe that I have it in here, but like looking back, I'm gonna just go back to these for a second so you can take it in. And I think that just for reference, I've been working with, I've been working with Brian for like 2-3 years. Like he was at this previous company like 40, this is an old pitch document. Like they put this idea together and they put this to paper years and years and years before it was actually like made. And I think that it's a really good example of like being accurate, like knowing what the vibe is, selling the vibe.
The city is for some glamorous, stimulating, prosperous. Only recently has it become dangerous.
Jack, I think I found something. 3 women were strangled over the last 2 weeks.
You're on the lifestyle desk. You're not covering a homicide.
I think the murders are connected.
Another woman was strangled. Just came over the wire.
I'm killing the follow-up. You don't have a story.
How many women have to die before it's a story?
They just confirmed number 4.
Police aren't talking. Never seen them this tight-lipped about anything.
I don't care if it's 1 killer or 4. We're gonna catch whoever did this.
You have any suspects? Boston police, hands on the wall.
We had him. We just let him walk away.
Everything lines up with him. His history, the progression of the crimes, everything.
You know how many people I've gone down the rabbit hole with? It's a dead end every time with this case.
What do you think you're gonna find out there? When is this gonna stop, Loretta?
I need you to call in a favor.
Be quick. I don't want to get fired tonight.
Any lawyer worth a dime would pick this apart.
You really want to use this paper to tear down the police department?
If anyone else was blowing it this badly, we'd have put it on the front page a long time ago.
I need you to take down an address. If I don't call back in an hour, give it to the police.
Loretta, there's more than one lunatic out there, and you're gonna get us both killed.
A safe little world is just delusion.
I just feel like they so accurately sold the tone, the era, the cinematography. Like again, years and years, they knew what the project was, they knew what the final product was gonna look like. And they pitched, like they had the story, they had the individuals, like obviously they're pitching a script that is written, they know what the story, the first and next of it. But I really feel like they did a great job building, obviously, I mean, like, look at me, congratulations, at least good for you. Like what an expert example of building a world before, for a pitch. This is where those comps come in. I think it's a really good one, a really fun one. This next one, no, I don't.
The city is.
How do I get this here? We did, okay. Has anyone seen this before? And can anyone ID what this is? Because this is a pitch document that's gone around. Does anyone have an idea of what show this is for? Yeah. So this is that has like the full description of the show. Like it's the start of it. You can find this online, or alternatively, I can send you some of these documents that I pulled for this project. It's a lot of stuff. Google Guys is your best friend. But this is one of my favorite kind of like early sales documents that sells, I think they sell the tone. This is exactly 80s, like kind of like paperback, pulpy kind of thriller. What a fun way to present a lot of text. Like they wanted to sell out the story. This is like Leave Behind, or I don't know if this was their Bible. Yes, Ted and Stash, this is Stranger Things. I just saw you pop up. But I think that it's a really fun one, and clearly it's from very early development when it was called Montauk and set on Long Island. I really, a really great way to incorporate your comps were these full page spreads where they get like incredible movie stills that and they reference specifically what they're looking at here, and then diving into the story itself. Something that I worked on that is not created, but I think kind of we tried to take a similar fun pitch for was this project, a descriptive project about a women's hockey team. And we tried to make it like a 60s magazine, and all the characters had their own kind of like full spread ad pages. We kind of tried to make it into like a sports meets, again, it's a sports period piece, but fun and comedic, bright colors and stuff. Hopefully sell all of that. Again, context for the history, context for the when. I think that the why kind of folds into like women have always been like ice hockey powerhouses. The root of this is the history there, that this story is based on a real girl who played ice hockey and like disguised herself in the boys team until she couldn't anymore. And that kind of gets into the heart and character and polarity of that world. The next thing, this one I think is a really cool one. Guys, the Adventure Time pitch deck lives online. You can see the whole thing. I think it's a great example of one that I like with deep respect and love and admiration to Adventure Time and its art. Like from a layout perspective, we're not breaking ground. This is like very basic, like here's a block of text and here's the doodle, like kind of fun stuff. Here's what they look like. But I think when it really sells personality, like it gives you the concept. You do get to go into things like concept art. But like the Jake the Dog page, I think is like big personality sell. I think that this like suspense, like you see the characters and you, even if this is your first time looking at it, you get what they are and who they are. And then a page in here that I think is really a fun one. Adventure Time was a short before it was a film, and it was a short that kind of did viral and people really loved. So they included a bunch of fan art to be like, why? The people demand it. Like, there's an audience for this. It's like something that I think really is fun. So again, another one that we can either set out the decks or you can Google it, this thing that's out there on the internet. And then, okay, Last Daniels. This is, I don't know if anyone remembers the Turn Down for What music video. For me, a cultural reset, but the actual, it's such a good deck, I think, from a tone perspective. So the way that, yes, I see you. I think that this is like, it just does a really good job selling the story and the point of view. I'm not as familiar with the world of music videos, but it's a bid process. So like you are pitching, like the director is pitching their idea, their take for the music video and what it will look like, feel like, and all that good stuff. And this was theirs. And so they did a really good job pitching, like, there's a still in here from The Shining. There's like just some like sweaty club like photos. There is a like Hot Fuzz, I think that is. Like it's just selling vibe and chaos. So has everyone seen that? Guys, Turn Down for What music video. And that's how then we can get into questions and stuff. But I both applaud it and also I'm glad to be the one to either let you watch or reintroduce the Turn Down for What music video. And one last time, again, that first thing says, this song makes us want to dance. Let me I'll zoom in here and kind of read some of this. The song makes us want to dance, our faces off and break shit. So we're envisioning a hilarious video where that happens. We open on the exterior of an apartment building, swooping up as the music video escalates floor after floor until we reach the rooftop, where a lone dude is dancing like crazy, pumping the air just for himself. But right as the music drops, as the first turn down rings out, he leaps horizontally into the air and comes tumbling down towards the concrete rooftop, dick first. He humps the ground so violently that he smashes through the ceiling and tumbles into the apartment below. And below, we discover a terrified woman screaming at the intruder who just keeps dancing like crazy. She throws objects at him, but he just humps them and they explode across his groin. He ain't gonna turn down for nothing. And she has no choice but to join in. She knocks him to the ground and shakes her ass in his face so violently that she points him through the ground into the next floor of the apartment building. We go down floor by floor as the party gets bigger. So I think that, like, again, the writing, the visuals, everything about this sells what it is, and then you'll see this incredibly artful and appropriately done, right? Like they did it. They sold exactly what they were going to create, and they built the world. They told the narrative. Why them? They're the only ones who are going to do this and execute it. I'm sorry, that's a reputation thing, but I think that's a really good, fun example. And also, I highly recommend where I found this, which is WeDirectMusicVideos.com, which is a just like open resource for music video directors. It has like, I could show, I actually did not get that, it's my computer, so I do not have this window open on here, but there's a really good Shins music video pitch that like kind of, they did a proof of concept for a stop motion concept that they wanted to bring to the music video, and that got them the pitch. They also, this has like some interesting, it's the Shins Half a Million music video that gave it a breakdown of their pitch process a little bit. They're like, so we pitched here, we had 2 weeks until we heard back. Here's what, so I think that kind of transparency, and it's all across this music video website. It's very interesting. No, this is gonna play again. No, thank you. Okay, so we have a bunch of time. I also wanted to say I could talk for 8 years about what decks look like. If anyone is interested, I was running a deck design 101 course that's like more about graphic design basics. I will give you access to the recording of that class if you want. Just shoot me an email, or we can like get a like writing sheet, just a sign up sheet together. It's like an hour and change. I could talk about the design of it for a very long time, but it's a real 101 on the layout and aesthetic side. With that said, from the room or from Zoom?
Is there like a place where you guys normally get images from, like, or like for the Strangler one, they have a lot of screen caps?
Google, Netflix will not let you screenshot something, but you can get around that. Google, Google will tell you how to get around that. There are like, you have to like turn off a specific setting on your computer, but then you can screenshot Netflix. You can really get creative. There are a lot of different places that have images. You can look for like people. I follow a woman named Elizabeth Goodspeed who does like just all herself. She's I love her, truly. I'm trying her in my home because she'll just pull. She's like, here's like a bunch of images from basketball from the 60s. You're like, what? Like someone's doing that work for you. You just have to go out and do the work of finding it. So you can also like take your own reference images if you feel like I want our interviews to look like, I've done an interview before, but don't be afraid to reference yourself. But yeah, you can kind of piece things together. You can have like 3 images that's like, you know, our interviews to look like this background and this lighting style and this. Get out there and Google. I'm sorry, there's a great website called Unsplash that's free stock images. Pexels is free stock images. It's development. Here's the dirty secret. If it's development and pitching, it actually doesn't matter whether they're licensed because it's not for public use. It's not for publication. You don't feel like you're being held back by licensable images. It's just easier to get high res, high quality images without a watermark on those.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Yeah, so you said you were, yeah.
So how
this is a hot second. So my path was, I realized that I wanted to work collaboratively on things that I was like, I want to do like team, and I want to work like on like putting out something. I had some experience with teaching, and then I realized that's not what I wanted to do. So I'm trying to answer what I did want to do. I kind of like gave myself those parameters. I had taken screenwriting with Nancy Schoenberger, and I ended up doing an independent study with her where I did a spec script for community. So last night did a certain moment for me. I thought I wanted to do copywriting, but I didn't have any industry connections, and I thought I could get into, also did not have or like live anywhere that wasn't, I just like paying off loans. So I think that my unique like privilege is my family's at Long Island, my family is in the city. I commuted with my first job as a receptionist at a production company. I commuted 4 hours a day to work, answer phones, and I got into development that way. It wasn't necessarily, I think that I could have done it differently and gone into like comedy. I think that I ended up where I really have a lot of passion in the like visual and graphics and getting to go down dates. I'm very excited about where I am, but there is no one straight line. And I'm so sorry. And also, again, I'm sorry, but also like how great. Like, there is no right place to start.
What's your advice about determining who to pitch to? If you have an idea how to figure out like who's the right person or the right entity?
It's a really good question. I think that it depends on what you're looking for as a next step in the project. So I come from mainly the world of documentary. I think that a lot of people are constantly like, I need money. Like that's the next step, because a lot of people, the documentary is successful enough that you can just start making it talk. And then people are looking for partners on the money front. You could be looking for partners. I think that a lot of independent creators will pitch a production company, and that way you can get the industry connections. Like they are going to have a relationship with a buyer, and they will also have production services to help you like connect with or help you execute higher quality production. That's like if somebody comes to us and they have an idea and it's like, yeah, we want to do it. I'm like, cool, you have all of these cameras now, you have all of like our editor and our producer, and like we can give you resources. But I think that choosing the right, if you want to like pitch a production company, choosing the right production company is part of it. So like if somebody came to us and they're like, I have an idea, I meant religion of sports, like it's what it says on the tin. If someone came to us with like a lifestyle program, I would be like, we're not going to be no one's going to buy it from us. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to partner with somebody, finding somebody to pitch who is like already is in the space that you're looking to, who will be able to champion that project in a way that gives it the best chance of success. Because if somebody were to come to the last company I was at with a sports idea, it wouldn't work because we were doing more lifestyle. And someone were to come to this company, lifestyles ideas, just with the right pitch. So I think that what your project is, where you're hoping it goes.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's hard when it's like, it almost feels limiting when it's like, oh yeah, pitch something that is akin to something that they're already doing, but it's like, don't they want new ideas? But I see your point about, make sure you're in the right kind of thematic universe.
Yeah, and I think that it's the other way around. So like, I wouldn't be like, you have your idea first, and you're like, I have a great idea. And like, I have to find the people who love this great idea. So like, instead of being like, I know that I want to pitch that company, like, I think that company is the right person for my project. So like, because you could develop towards like, there are like, you have Boston people, they don't sound great. So we have people who are like, you guys have been on my radar, and but I think that those are people who are passionate about sports and they happen to have sports projects, not that they were like, I gotta work with this company. So I think that it's not about making it a cookie cutter for them, but about developing your best idea and then finding the person who's gonna be most accepted.
I think that's it's important to know your destination company or whoever, as well as your pitch, research and kind of the intricacy of that, but it's also more of a trash sort of thing rather than
You should do your research. Yeah. You want to walk into a room and be like, I watched the last thing you did, it's great. You want to be able to be like, I saw that you announced this project. I think that being well researched and being read your trades. Sorry, that's a separate note. Read the trades, know what's going on. That will help you because then that will also be like, wow, I keep seeing that this one company, this company has pitched 6 projects that I'm absolutely crazy about. Then that company, or I keep saying this director's name. Read the trades, variety, deadline, whatever. Synopsis sends out a really good letter. CY. CYNOPSIS synopsis. It's a literally just they'll send out a newsletter that's this week in development announcements, and it'll be this person bought this person sold this, all that good stuff. And I think that coming in as an expert, knowing the industry and knowing the company. Is anyone on chat? We're on chat. My friends. Do you guys have any questions? I don't want to box you guys out because you're Zoom. If not, I will end it and then just let's talk about anything else. We're still here. Trade publications. Pop this up, yes. I'm gonna pop it in here. Variety, deadline. Synopsis. Variety, deadline, synopsis. You can get niche. There's you can also, I think that there are other resources. I really liked videos.com. That is not a trade publication, and truly they went dormant for about 2 years and came back last week. So I don't know how often it's getting updated, but it is part of the reason why I wanted to do this class. Oh, I'm sorry. I should project. But part of the reason why I wanted to do this class is that I feel it got out to the world. I was like, I love entertainment. I want to entertain people. And I'd never seen a pitch deck before. I didn't know what it looked like. I was working in development, and that's the first time I got moved to the development team. And I was like, oh, those are pitch decks. And they look so different project to project that it's what's the right thing? And I think that answering those questions is the heart of it. I think that the leader of music videos type thing, you get to actually see other people's creative work and development work. So much goes under NDA, so much goes under I can show you, I've been working on dozens of decks this year. I can't show you, but I'd love to. So Google, there are a lot of so you'll find things like series Bibles online. I saw one for Lost. I saw one for New Girls. New Girls. I think they are out there. I think that the reason I didn't include more series Bible stuff is that I tried to stay away from paid development materials because those are things that a pitch has happened network or company has invested money so someone could spend time writing. The lost one is like, so after spending $500,000 and spending 3 weeks on an island, like filming, we were able to come to these conclusions. Like, it was like, oh, you wrote this as like the next step, but like, this is not the pitch document. But they are really helpful. Like Grey's Anatomy is out there, but they have, like, Grey's Anatomy has like the production stills from when they did a pilot. That was like post, after they had gotten that kind of initial investment from, so there was a pitch before that. But look that up. There's a lot of, like, there's a lot out there. Like, go and find other people's works. There are a lot of people that are scripted. There are a lot of scripts out there. And you can like grab scripts and read through them or like watch them with a thing. There's a lot of cool. And I also do a lot of design work and fully, and I'm making sure I'm certified degree in right now. So I learned everything online, like YouTube University, baby. Like, it's out there. Everything else online.
What's your sense for the state of the industry in terms of green lighting stuff right now? Because we've been hearing that it's kind of a low point, let's say, a trough. What do you see?
It's a fantastic question. It's a fantastic question, and I will say, so I think that there are a few things at play. One, I think, is like larger financial things. Like I think that people are having, like, I think that the state of the world is like part of what plays into that, but also we're kind of hitting a saturation point in, I remember like 4 years ago, Matt McCarthy, who is in my year, she worked at Rooster Teeth and now does stuff for like Alamo Direct. She's fantastic. She's amazing, guys. But she was talking about how like her company had just been bought by AT&T, or like when she was at Rooster Teeth. I think that that's what had happened. And she kind of described it as like, you had all these little fish, like content creators and streamers that were creating like really cool stuff that people were getting excited about. And then they would get bought by like a bigger fish, they'd get like eaten by a bigger fish. And slowly and slowly and slowly, those things started to get like swallowed by the just major networks again. So now we have, it's less about like major networks and more about like Discovery, Warner, like Fox. All of these creators are, all of these like buyers, studios are buying and like swallowing these streaming services, or like it's basically like we're getting a reduction in the number of buyers again. So like now that Discovery has purchased Warner, like Discovery is making decisions for all of those companies now, where it was like Warner was buying a lot and then Discovery was buying a lot. Now they've consolidated and they're like, oh, the bottom line, we need to be able to like have a return on investment for our stockholders. Like, so we're not going to be buying as much, we're going to be taking stuff off. And like, so this is a very circuitous way to go about answering this, because I think that it's partially the like business side of the industry. But it is that I think that that's part of why we're experiencing a downturn in improvements. Which stinks.
When do you think that might change?
That's a question. I'm currently feeling very, I work at a company that has like external investment, and I'm feeling like cool about the fact that I was like, great. So at the very least, we're like, we're supported by her. So like, I think that is the interesting part about that, is that like, we're able to kind of, because we were able to get investment in through other routes than the traditional like network-wise project, we're able to approach certain productions in a different way. And I think that is like, you look at somebody like Ron, who has experience producing, like really putting together financing. It doesn't always, there are a few ways to skin it. So I don't know if it's necessarily equally, but I think that if you are looking to do a network singing competition show, like it's gonna be like that's the route. You got to go that way. But I think that depending on the project, there may be other ways to approach it, and also like, people are not buying. People are always gonna buy stuff, people are always gonna make stuff. We are hungrier than ever to just launch stuff. And so, I think that it's not as appropriate as, I think having a little bit less money in the ecosystem or a little fewer green lights in the ecosystem isn't like the end of the world. I don't think will be like long lasting. I think what happens also after people buy stuff, it's just like a very annoying industry thing that like an executive will leave or a new executive will come in or someone will get fired and then they'll be like, kill all of those projects, they're gone, they're dead, they're not from my era. And then they'll be like, I am gonna rebuild, or we're gonna not green light for the next like 6 months, and like we're gonna figure out what our voice is, and then we're gonna come back. And so like there always have been these periods of like people aren't buying, people. So sorry. Like, I think that it's just like riding the wave of it, like figuring out like it's there's that kind of like business side of it. Like, do we have it at 11?
We don't, we ran out of like official time for this, but.
Yeah, people, I'm here.
Yeah.
One. Or 10 a.m. Pacific. So basically, I'm around for the next few days. I'm also always available. I would have shot myself in the foot to have somebody to talk to when I was in school. Like, it is like I'm here. Reach out. Oh, if you're interested in Tech Design 101, I will send it to you. I will send you, it comes with a resource document. If you said, I don't care about flash, just give me the resource document, I can do that too. So just reach out, I'm here. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Larissa. Sorry, I can't see you guys.
Awesome.
Kind of, because we were able to get investment in through other routes than the traditional like network clients project, we're able to approach certain productions in a different way. And I think that that is like, you look at somebody like Marotta who has experience producing and really putting together financing. It doesn't always, there are a few ways to skin it. So I don't know if it's necessarily complete. I think that if you are looking to do a network singing competition show, like it's gonna be like that's the route. You got to go that way. But I think that depending on the project, there may be other ways to approach it. And also like people are not buying. People are always gonna buy stuff. People are always gonna make stuff. We are hungrier than ever to just launch stuff. And so I think that it's not as appropriate as I think having a little bit less money in the ecosystem or a little fewer green lights in the ecosystem isn't like the end of the world. I don't think will be like long lasting. I think what happens also after people buy stuff, it's just like a very annoying industry thing that like an executive will leave or a new executive will come in or someone will get fired and then they'll be like, kill all of those projects, they're gone, they're dead, they're not from my era. And then they'll be like, I am gonna rebuild, or we're gonna not green light for the next like 6 months, and like we're gonna figure out what our voice is, and then we're gonna come back. And so like there always have been these periods of like people aren't buying, people. So sorry. Like, I think that it's just like riding the wave of it, like figuring out like it's there's that kind of like business side of it. Like, do we have it at 11?
We don't, we ran out of like official time for this, but.
Yeah, people, I'm here.
Yeah.
One. Or 10 a.m. Pacific. So basically, I'm around for the next few days. I'm also always available. I would have shot myself in the foot to have somebody to talk to when I was in school. Like, it is like I'm here. Reach out. Oh, if you're interested in Tech Design 101, I will send it to you. I will send you, it comes with a resource document. If you said, I don't care about flash, just give me the resource document, I can do that too. So just reach out. I'm here. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.